Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. We have Sean Rosensteel here, who is a lifelong entrepreneur. He's the founder of SavvyProWeb.com. They are a company that build professional websites that increase credibility, generate leads, and win clients. So if you say, I want 0 clients, I want 0 leads, I want to be the most the least credible person on the planet, then shut off this podcast right now. But if you want to grow your business, if you want things to be easier and better and faster, then Sean is the guy to listen to. So Sean, glad to be talking to you.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Robert. Excited to be here.
And I'm excited to have you here. And whenever I have like web page people on, people talk about landing pages and first impressions, I always feel so bad. I always feel like, oh, I need to go back and refresh my design every couple of years, or I need to make sure I have cookie compliance and legal pages, and I make sure to have important graphics and headlines and look at someone's first impression as if I'm Walt Disney coming to the theme park or something. And so what are your thoughts? What do we need to be focusing on? Where are we going wrong with our websites? Go ahead and make me feel bad.
Now, let's how about this? Let's stay out of the weeds and talk strategy, right? So I think from what I see, Robert, is there's a lot of companies out there that lack what I believe is the key ingredient to converting more visitors into phone calls, contact form requests, downloads, leads in general, right? Whatever that might be. And it's empathy. I think all of us are making this mistake of, we still are trying to prove ourselves with our website. So we, launch these websites that do nothing but talk about our companies. And what we really needed to be doing is expressing empathy for the visitor, expressing empathy for the prospect that we're serving, whether we're doing whether we have a service business or a product business. Like if I'm a visitor on your website, chances are I'm going to look at it and say, wow, you're doing nothing but talking about yourself. And what we have to start doing is talking more about the problems we solve. And we have to express that empathy and ultimately position ourselves as the thought leader or as the guide in the visitor's journey, right? So I think if we took a step back and we all looked at our own websites today, the question is, are we talking about ourselves, or are we talking more about the problems we solve and expressing that empathy for our visitor?
All right. So less about ourselves, more about the problem. And that concept right there, it blew my mind maybe 10 or 15 years ago, just the idea that someone didn't just magically show up on our website, right? It's easy to think okay, well, someone's here. What should the headline be? And then when at some point this concept dawned on me that whoever's out there, some sort of path led them to that website. They've done Google searches. They've been to competing websites. Maybe they've ignored the problem for years. Maybe they've been on social media. Maybe they've already bought other books. They've already listened to other podcasts to get them to the point where they are now. And just that on its own is empathy, is kind of thinking about what led them to our website. It's kind of mind blowing, right? That, well, you think that it started when they found you, but when they found you, they might be 6 months into their journey.
That's right. Yeah, I think it's important for us to put ourselves in their shoes and understand our own client or customer's journey, right? And for some of us, we have businesses where our client might be someone who's completely out of the loop. Like when I go in and get my car fixed, I'm not an auto mechanic. I'm not a car guy or a car person. I appreciate them, but I don't know how they work necessarily. So when I go into a mechanic, it's I have no idea what I'm doing, right? But for other businesses and the clients they serve, the clients might be really educated. They could be really well educated in whatever industry it is you have. So you need to use different language with them, right? And you need to understand that when they come to your website, maybe you do need to use some of that language that's a little bit more technical, because they do have a little bit more education than, let's say, I would with cars, right? So again, that just all boils down to empathy in my mind, is really understanding their pain points, their problems, how they've been treated in the past, what sort of experiences they've had working with companies like yours in your space, in your vertical industry, in your market, whatever it might be, and just really kind of putting yourselves in their shoes and helping them through the process.
And you're making me think for some reason about, I have I don't know what you'd call it, I guess a handyman, and he is one of the best websites I've ever seen. Just because there's so much there, but it seems it's not overwhelming. But it's if you just want to go there and you just want his contact details, just want to contact him, it's easy to find. But if you're doing more of the research, like you're mentioning there, if you know keywords, if you know what you're looking at, then there's so much to look at. Like he's got like this list, like bullet pointed list of all the little towns near here that he services. Because if you just say, well, I serve, the Los Angeles area or something, well, who knows if this person goes to my exact, my exact little small town. And then he's got these list of like all these different like handyman type of services he has. And even to the point where he's got a blog section where there's like a 20-page long blog post with pictures on like how to mount a TV. And it's like, well, if you mount a TV, it might be this kind or that kind, and you need to do this to find low bearing walls and these types of screws. And it's basically set up where I scroll, and I guess technically I could follow all these exact instructions and do it, but I look at all the things that he watches for and all the little nooks and crannies. And I'm like, you know what, at the end of the day, there's a phone number, there's an email link right there on the bottom. I might as well just take the shortcut, do the easy way, and just have him do it, because the more I read it, he's being very helpful, but the more I just get bogged and overwhelmed with like all the things that could be done. So that's kind of what comes to mind as far as when you're mentioning that they've been treated in a certain way, or they might be like kind of on those different levels of awareness, either just they don't know what they don't know, or they're looking for very specific things. And so what's interesting and exciting about people like you and your company is you always have interesting case studies in these different niches, these different verticals like you're mentioning. So does an interesting story come to mind here, Sean, that you want to share with us that kind of get us thinking in a different way, or thinking outside the box about in some weird off the wall industry or niche or company that you've helped with your amazing website services?
Yeah. So what comes to mind just based on the story you just gave about your handyman is, it sounds like that handyman of yours has a better website than we do. So I think what's really important is that we take into consideration the client we serve. So for example, for us, we serve high growth entrepreneurs. These people are moving at the speed of light. They're visionaries. They drive culture. Like they're just literally they are flying at Mach 10 with their hair on fire. And the last thing they want to do, Robert, is focus on their website. They could care less about their website. So here we have a website service, but our clients could care less about it. It's probably how people in insurance feel. It's like insurance to a lot of us is kind of boring, right? And it's not like a sexy product. Well, for us, because of our client being that high growth entrepreneur who really doesn't want to focus on the website, it's actually a very frustrating thing. This digital world that we're in is very frustrating. It's not like it used to be 15, 20, 25 years ago. So we have to appreciate that, right? Like we have to really appreciate the fact that we can't just sit here and talk about how, great our websites are, because the clients we serve could care less, frankly. The problem that we solve is that a lot of these companies have websites that are costing them incalculable amounts of missed opportunity. That's the problem we solve. So we know that our guy or gal is up at night and they don't know what they don't know about their existing website. They know that they're missing opportunity. They just don't know how much, and it drives them a little nuts. But they're not going to sit here and listen to a 90-minute pitch on, why our websites are the best. It's like priority number 157 on their to-do list, right? So I think it's really important to understand what sort of a customer we serve, because a lot of us, again, talk a ton about our businesses, and frankly, the clients we serve may or may not care all that much. So your story of the handyman, that kind of triggered that, because it's interesting that your handyman is selling a handyman service, yet he's blogging and telling people how to do things themselves. So he's kind of like, yeah, I can fix everything, but here's a do-it-yourself blog as well. You know what I mean? It's an interesting, we work with a lot of HVAC companies that have that same conflict, which is we want the phone call. We want to go put out the fire. We want to fix that furnace, fix that air conditioning unit, whatever it is. But should we blog? Because if we're blogging, it's going to be all about how to, and that's what we're here to provide, that service. So I find it interesting that your handyman's doing it. To go back.
Do you think he's doing it correctly, or do you advise like a different sort of strategy? Do you advise like speaking more like high level or more situational?
I'm very results driven and data driven, and it's hard for me to say he's doing anything right or wrong, without seeing what's going on. So what I'd be interested in seeing, like we work with a lot of clients who have been blogging for years. They publish 1, 2, 3 blog posts a month. Which in my mind is a lot of time and effort and energy. And then we pop the hood and we look at their analytics, and those blog posts have literally brought in zero relevant traffic that's worth anything, that's converting in any way, shape, or form. So to the handyman, whatever his or her name may be, I would suggest popping the hood and trying to identify whether or not all that hard work and the time and energy you're investing in publishing that content is doing you any good. Maybe it is. Maybe that's his number one source of leads and that he's knocking it out of the park locally. What I find difficult about local SEO and blogging, if you're a handyman, is, is he going to teach you how to mount a TV in your specific city? Or is he bringing in traffic all over for the United States? I mean, obviously he's got a radius, a target area where he's willing to drive to, or she or she, whoever it is willing to drive to. So if he's where do you live, Robert?
Turlock, California, sort of east of San Francisco.
Okay. So if people from Maine are finding his how to mount a TV blog post, like, it's an awfully nice thing that this person's doing, providing that content for someone out in Maine. But I would argue, are there other revenue generating activities that may move the needle a little better than writing blog posts? I don't know what I don't know, as I mentioned, but, I think look at the data, and I'm a big believer that success leaves clues. So we work with a lot of clients, for example, who are, you pop the hood and you say, okay, where does all your business come from? Where do your leads come from? They say, well, we're 98% of our business is referral driven. It's like, well, I'm not going to recommend Twitter ads. I'm not going to recommend a Facebook strategy or Google strategy. Like, do more of what you're already doing. And then I usually ask the question, well, let's look at your referral system. And then I get kind of this deer in headlights look, because hardly any company out there has a referral campaign or referral system, right? So for me, it's always do more of what works and cut out everything else that's wasteful. So depending on where his leads are coming from, he should do more of it. That's my recommendation, but it's hard to say what specifically that is unless we have some data, right?
Yeah, and this is interesting to kind of consider it in the multiple mindsets, because from what I'm getting from your answers here is that there's the time to maybe try new things, or try some strategy, and then there's a time to go back and examine the data, and there's a time to say, well, we want to try something new, and there's also a time to say, well, here's what you have that maybe you've lucked into or you've been doing right and haven't been realizing how well it's been doing, and then just strengthen your strengths instead of trying to strengthen your weaknesses. And I think that, when I was younger and maybe more arrogant, more cocky, listening to your answer, I might have just kind of tuned it out and thought oh, well, then never blog at all. But what you're saying is sometimes go for the art side of things and try things out, but then don't forget the data. Don't just do something, or don't just not do something because that's what you've heard. Do the make your best stab at it, but then also look at what the numbers tell you as far as the feedback loop.
Yeah, I think that's so important, Robert. So I think one of the issues in this industry, this digital marketing world, I think, is that so many agencies and freelancers and vendors, if you go up to someone with a hammer, they're going to recommend everything looks like a nail, right? So if you're someone who hears about a Facebook strategy and wow, I heard a competitor's getting $2 leads over there on Facebook, and you go ask a Facebook ads agency or a freelancer who specializes in Facebook ads what they think, they don't know any better. They're going to say, yeah, this will probably work. Let's try it. I think marketing is trial and error. That's my experience. I've been a marketer for roughly 15 years. And to me, it all boils down to trial and error. Something could sound perfect and the strategy could look perfect, and everything on paper is just, oh, this is the most brilliant campaign we've ever run in the 50-year history of our business. And then you run it and it's crickets, and you don't see the results you get or that you anticipated. So I think it's all trial and error. I think it's important to have, budgets in mind, and it's important to have a timeline in mind. I mean, one of the beauties, as about Google ads or Facebook ads, is we can get data in an hour. It's we need 500 data points. We can get it quickly. With SEO, that's more of a marathon approach, right? You might run an SEO campaign and blog or whatever it might be for 9 months, only to discover that it didn't work. So I think to each his own. Businesses are like snowflakes, and everybody does it a little differently, and everyone attracts clients a little differently. And I think it's important to, again, look under the hood and remember that success leaves clues, and lean into the things that have worked historically. and certainly go out there and explore and try new things, of course, because you never know what you might find, but manage how much you're willing to put towards those exploratory activities when it comes to marketing, so that if you invest $10,000 in Facebook this month and it doesn't work, you're okay with it. It's kind of like gambling. I'm not a gambler myself, but I feel like a lot of our clients feel this way. They're sitting outside of a casino. They walk in, all the agencies and freelancers are like the dealers at the table. Everybody's ready to take your money and say yes to any request you have. They bring in a blank checkbook and an ATM card with unlimited withdrawal capability. And they're just it's a treacherous landscape for a lot of us business owners and entrepreneurs, or at least it can be if we're not working with the right people. So I think it's important to have sort of that stop loss in place. Like, we're going to try this campaign. We think it's a good idea. We're going to track and measure everything that happens here with this. And we're willing to throw $2,500 at this, $5,000 or whatever it is. And what's nice is, even if you don't get the results that you expected, you get data. You're paying for data. You're investing in the data so that you can move from round one of the campaign to round two with all the things that you've learned from that first campaign or that first round, right?
Yeah, and so from this, I'm getting that we need to have a strategy, and you mentioned like a stop loss, like the lower, but in my mind, there's also like the upper, right? There's like what to you is a successful trial run of SEO, Facebook ads, whatever it is. And you're mentioning a lot of kind of the time frame, right? So you're saying don't just leave things open and don't just say, well, I'm gonna start doing SEO or I'm gonna start running ads. You're saying SEO 9 months in your example, or run these ads for 30 days, or have this budget for $500, $5,000, but like have kind of your different variables in place so that well, what's the kind of the high end success? So did this work? Should we repeat it? Or what's the low side of it? What's the failure? So that way we say, okay, we'll stop and maybe examine. Maybe we won't go down that path at all, or we'll examine why that's happening. It kind of seems to remove, or not completely, but like it reduces the stress, the uncertainty, so that way we can maybe make these more calculated decisions.
That's right. I think going in there eyes wide open, knowing that there's a possibility that this effort of ours may not work, is a healthy mindset to have. And to look at it as, hey, we're investing in some information here, and the information we gather from this process that we're going through will help us get better in the future. And sometimes sometimes you'll launch a campaign for the first time and it works. And that's a matter of just optimizing and improving what's already working. Sometimes you might launch a campaign and you don't get the results you anticipate. So you need to go through some iterations. Just last week. So I think it depends on your question as far as time frame. I think it depends on the channel. So like just last week, we're trying out a new campaign ourselves, and we ran a handful of campaigns on Google Ads from Tuesday to Friday, and we got close to 1,000 data points. We got what we were looking for. And then we're, taking it a step further and relaunching that same exact campaign with some improvements to keywords, to some geographics, and to a few adjustments on the offer we're making. And that's part of the process. I wasn't expecting last week to invest a little bit of money and really generate any qualified leads that were worthwhile. I was just looking for some data, what's getting clicked, what words are moving the needle, what landing pages are converting. And that reminds me of something that we recently did with a client of ours who is a top producer in real estate in the Chicagoland area. We're doing their website, and we ended up, this gentleman called about halfway through our campaign. We weren't ready to launch the website. And he said, hey, we're running a huge ad, a cover story on the DuPont registry, high-end homes, high-end audience, and we need something within a week. I was like, okay, there's no way we can get this website done in a week, but we can at least put a landing page out there. So we did that, supported him in that initiative. And within like 10 days of the DuPont registry being mailed out, he 10x'd his investment. So you were asking about certain case studies and some crazy stories. To me, that's a crazy story. That had nothing to do with us. That was all his brain and his wisdom. We probably, we don't know a lot about print. We don't know a lot about publication, magazines, any of that. We're not in that world. to me, the print world isn't trackable. It's not measurable. So we tend to enjoy the digital landscape because you can literally get your arms around everything as far as data is concerned. You have total transparency into what's going on. Well, he was really behind all this, and we just supported him with a simple landing page, but that worked out really well. So what's he going to do? Well, next quarter, when that registry comes out, he's going to rerun it. It 10x'd his investment for him. It had nothing to do with us. We just put a landing page up. That was his idea. So I think it's really important too, Robert, to mention that there's kind of a method to the madness here. I think a lot of us go after these opportunities like, oh, more traffic and ads and all this stuff. The problem with that mentality is if your website isn't effective, if you have a website that doesn't work, you're just going to get more of the same results. You're just going to pay more for it. You know, you can run all the Facebook and Google campaigns. You can do all the SEO, blog all you want until you're blue in the face. If your website is ineffective, if it's an underperforming website, you're going to have more of those same results. So what's really important, like what we do is we came up with a simple formula for the past 15 years. And we say, look, focus on your website first. Have a website that increases credibility and generates the leads you want, meaning the phone calls you want, whatever it might be, scheduled appointments, book calls, whatever it may be. Then move into enhancing the performance of your website through lead generation. So once you have a solid foundation, then move into all the funnel stuff we're talking about, right? The lead generation, PDFs, the guides, the checklists, the webinars, the courses, whatever it may be, with some automation behind it. So for a few weeks or a few months, these people who downloaded the guide or whatever it is on the website will hear from you more often, right? Because I think what happens is we put a website out there and we think people are going to call us. We think people are going to schedule our phone number. Well, the truth is like maybe 1% to 2% of website visitors will actually do what we want them to do. So what else are we going to offer them? What other sort of an irresistible offer can we provide to these people so that it adds value, it helps them solve their problem, ultimately further positions our companies as the thought leader, as the guide, whatever it may be. But we have to give them something else to increase that conversion rate from only 1% or 2% to maybe 5, 7, 8, 10%, and start gathering contact information and using automation to send them emails. That's kind of the second phase. And the third phase would be the traffic acceleration phase. Okay, once it's a mathematical certainty that our website is working well, solid foundation, we've got increased credibility in the marketplace, and leads are actually, coming from our website. And we know this with absolute certainty. Well, now we can open the hose. We can turn on the traffic hose. We can say, okay, should we use Facebook? Should we use Google? Should we do SEO? Should we blog? Whatever it may be, because you'll get better results that way. So we usually recommend that process: website first, lead generation second, traffic acceleration third, because you literally can't go wrong. And you don't graduate to that next phase or move into that next phase. You don't spend a dime on Twitter ads until you're confident that your website works, right?
And that makes it very doable and very logical. And I can imagine seeing the easy wins every step of the way. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen this too, where there's always that question of like, well, I want traffic, give me traffic. Like you said, if there's a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But then if the website is a leaky bucket, if there's all kinds of things wrong with the website, then what's the point of sending the traffic? And then even if you're going out of order there too, if there's a website but there's no follow-up, there's no lead capture, then the traffic is going to be a lot tougher to get it to pay off. So this makes a lot of sense that you're saying have the website, have the foundation in place, keep it simple, and then graduate to lead capture and automation. And then after you have those basics in there, then the next level is the traffic. And that's very fundamental, but I think it's so important. I think it's so overlooked by just wanting to rush in and doing the fun stuff is, getting 10,000 clicks and just seeing what happens. But it seems like a recipe for failure if you don't have the building blocks set up ahead of time. So this is a great conversation. We've had a lot of things to think about, talk about, chew on. Like you said, we stayed out of the weeds. We stayed with strategy. And I mean, you're making me think of all kinds of stories when you telling me stories like I knew a guy once who was trying to sell a house, and he posted a Craigslist ad that went to a landing page that had a direct response sales letter that ended up just selling the house. And so there's always those kind of counterintuitive moments when you try something and you look at the data and the data surprises you versus what you expected, and you adjust, and it ends up being a lot of fun. So if people want to get on this fun website train, if they say, a lot of what Sean said made sense, I know I need the foundation, I know I need things to be fixed up, lead capture, traffic, and all that, what's the next step here? How can people find out about Savvy Pro Web and what you do and what problems you solve?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Our website, savvyproweb.com. I'm also active on LinkedIn, not so much other social media channels, but LinkedIn primarily. So you can certainly find me on LinkedIn as well. And feel free to book a call. Call number on the website. I'd be happy to chat.
All right, you make it easy. You practice what you preach, right? As far as someone goes to their website, they need to get to that phone call or that free gift or whatever it is. They can find what they're looking for. So the way to find what you're looking for is go on LinkedIn, contact Sean Rosensteel, or even better, savvyproweb.com. That way they can retarget you with a pixel, hopefully. That way they can get you to sign up. They can follow up with you with an automation, and you can see firsthand all those little nooks and crannies that you should be doing on your website with your business. And it's easy to get overwhelmed and see it all at once. But if there is a method to the madness, if there's a clear order of do this simple thing, then do that simple thing, then Sean and his team, his agency, can help get you there. So savvyproweb.com is the place to go. Any final parting words of advice, Sean?
I appreciate it. One of the, I always come back to this acres of diamonds story, and we don't have time for that today, but this idea is that, everything you need is right underneath your nose. And so many of us have existing traffic on our website. We have hundreds of visitors a month, thousands, 10,000s. So there's probably opportunity to get better results with what we've got right now. So many of us go out there and we, open the hose and we put more traffic there. But the fact of the matter is, look how many people you have on your website today. Ask yourself whether or not you're satisfied with your conversions or your, the phone calls or leads, whatever it may be in your case. At the end of the day, you can probably improve what's already there first, or redo it. If it's been a few years and it's embarrassing or it's underperforming, whatever it is, if you know it's time, you can probably redo what you already have. But so many of us have businesses that have been around for a while. We've already done certain things, whether it's PR or podcasts or whatever it might be. We've already earned traffic, and we already have a pool of fish, a stocked pond on our website. And if nothing's going on, it's a good indication that it's time for an overhaul, or at least some sort of an optimization, right?
Well, that's great to think about. It's very inspiring that we might not even realize how good we have it. We're so close. We just need to take some of the raw materials that we've already created, that we already have. You've already earned the traffic. So get that conversation started with Sean. savvyproweb.com is the place to go. We will see you there. And thank you, Sean, for stopping by.
Hey, thanks for having me. And congrats, by the way. I think 800 and some odd episodes that you're at. Where are you at today?
I think we're maybe like close to 850.
That's amazing, man. Kudos. That is consistency if I've ever seen it. So congrats.
And it's along lines of what you're saying is if it's working, repeat it.
That's right. Great job. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. And we will see you at savvyproweb.com.